our next speaker, which we've actually introduced a little bit beforehand, is Zanele Mdodana from, she's a Protea, well, Spa Proteas woman netball player. She used to be the captain of the team, and now she's gone into coaching. And Zanele is in a position where not her own team, but the provincial side that she's well, there's a provincial tournament coming up, and she's got to try and get her players ready for the tournament. And there are various aspects that she needs to think about, and we're talking about not only the physical side, but also the psychological side of preparing players to go back into training and to inspire them to carry on playing. So welcome, Zanele, to today's webinar.
Hello, hi. How's my light, Sean?
The light's much better than yesterday. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Ricardo. That was amazing. Thank you so much for opening the floor in such a solid way. Now you're making me nervous now. Thanks so much for having me today. Super excited.
And I won't get involved at the moment. Once again, for Zanele, if you've got any questions, please post the questions. And as we did with Ricardo, we'll ask the questions at the end. And all questions are really important. And Zanele is also going to be talking about another coach that's actually at Marty's, who has got a server that he'd like us to participate in. So let me give Zanele the floor and enjoy.
I just want to check that out. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Hi to everybody. It's a great honor for me to be here this Saturday morning. As Sean said, I am the head coach of Marty's Netball. I've been at the University of Stellenbosch. This is my 4th year. Well, we really haven't had much netball this year at all. Arrived there in 2017. And I'm a former player, played for the Spa Proteas, captained the Spa Proteas, and then retired from playing netball in 2015. And I always knew that, you know, after playing, I want to coach. I'm a PE-born girl, born and bred in Port Elizabeth, was born there, studied there, worked there for a couple of years at the Nelson Mandela University as a sport manager. So before I came a coach, I was a sport manager at the Nelson Mandela University. And then in 2017, I got an opportunity to come and be the head coach here at Marty's, having played a couple of netball games here at the University of Stellenbosch. So it was quite nice to come here, but wearing a different cap, if I can put it that way. I said that my journey at the University of Stellenbosch hasn't been strawberries and cream, but one thing I always knew is that, you know, I prayed to be put in a place where I'll be challenged, a place where, you know, I can grow, and definitely I have grown a hell of a lot. It was a challenging 2017, 2018, things became much better. 2019 was by far the best year that we had as netball at Marty's, winning coach of the year, team of the year, literally just taking everything at the sports awards. And those who know anything about the University of Stellenbosch, rugby is a massive sport, and it does very well. And for a very long time, or for many years, it's won awards. Like every year, the rugby club or the rugby team or the rugby coach takes the awards. You know, so it was really good for netball to finally get something in our sports awards in 2019. So just imagine, as an athlete and a coach, you know, you hear the words that it's lockdown, that there's no sport, you are indoors, you must be indoors, no physical activity, no training, nothing outside. And I think when I heard that, my whole world literally just went into a standstill, because sport is what I love, sport is what I do, sport is who I am. It's, you know, it's what keeps me alive. So for me, hearing those words, really, I took a knock. Physically, I took a knock. Emotionally, I took a knock. Psychologically, I took a knock. Even spiritually, you know, I was very much challenged by the fact that there's going to be no netball, absolutely no netball this year. Because there's a virus out there that is basically, you know, killing people. It's killing us. And the best thing is to stay at home, wash your hands regularly, social distance, wear a mask. Yeah. Now, can you imagine an athlete, my players who, some of them are their final year, and all they wanted to do was to wear the maroon dress and be on the field of play, and end their university career basically on a high. We're coming from a very successful 2019 as Marty's Netball. You know, we were so good, and we had plans, we had strategies, we had excellent and a strong recruitment squad. We recruited a strong squad for 2020, and we knew that the plans are, if we can, you know, see these plans through, we'll be able to literally take everything this year. That was our plan. We want to just sweep and take every trophy that's available, you know. So it was really a massive knock for us to be told that there's going to be no sport. All university competitions were cancelled for the year. So no USA, no varsity netball. So that was a big thing for us. But I think I took the knock, but I think more than anything, my players took the worst. They couldn't handle it. They were really, really struggling with this, because for them, it's something new. It's something different. What do you mean we're not going to play netball? What do you mean we're not going to be able to train? What do you mean there's going to be no competition? You know, this is what we look forward to. That's why we are also here at the university. We're here to study, yes, but we're also here to play the sport that we love. So we had to adapt, and the players had to adapt even more, because all of a sudden now they're doing online learning. They're writing exams online. They are stuck at home. And for some of my players, that wasn't a pleasant experience. You know, you think being at home is nice, but for them, some of them really struggled with being at home. And keep in mind that we've given these players programs to go and continue doing at home. You know, and I shared this with someone. I'm saying, you know, we have a strict, we're very strict, and we're like, you know, this is the plan, and everybody's got to follow it. But there were so many things we had to take into consideration when we actually realized that not all my players have got a massive yard where they can literally run around, do their training program that they've been given by the SNC. Some of them, and we were checking them, you know, we were checking on the smarter base, and they have to report back on what they've been doing. And we could see that some of them were not training. So we had to check in and check what's going on, why you're not training. And, you know, coach, we don't have this, I don't have the space at home, you know, I don't have the massive yard, and we need to be indoors. We can't be running around in the streets and stuff like that. So as a coach, you have to be flexible. And then now you need to be considerate, and you need to look at this thing, not from that rigid approach, but be lenient and understanding, and see how you accommodate the player that can't do certain things, you know. We were fortunate to get the mandate, or to get the directive from our chief director at Marty's, that the university now has taken a decision to say that the most important thing for them now is academics. So as much as we are a sport department, what's important now is for us to support our athletes with regards to making sure that they pass their academics. Because if you don't pass, you can't play the sport. You can't be at the institution, and you can't play the sport that you love. So it's to make sure that we can support our players as best as we can, make sure those that need laptops at home can get the laptops, data, internet access, to be able to do everything that they need to do to make sure that they pass their academics. So we're so fortunate, you know, that at Marty's we have a guy that is phenomenal. He's been a performance psychologist for the longest of time, Eugene Opelt, and he jumped on and he came up with, you know, with these Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, checking in with the players, having one-on-ones, having group sessions, you know, different topics to address some of the challenges that the players are going through, being stuck at home and not playing any sport, you know. And I think he has been a saving grace, because you really, the physical part is not there. We're not training, but you don't know what is actually happening psychologically, mentally how are the players coping? Are they motivated? Are they not? And how do we motivate them, to keep going? One of the questions that they asked though was, Coach, why do we have to continue training following this program if there's no competitions? What are we actually training for? And that was a major question, and we had to sit as Marty's netball management and sort of just say to the girls, you've got to keep active. You've got to keep active. Yes, there's no university competitions, but there are those players who are going to be playing in the Telkom Netball League, which is now going to be taking place in October. And Netball South Africa stuck to that, like very early on in the year. They said, yes, we know there's COVID, but they still maintain that the Telkom Netball League is going to take place. And the fortunate thing is that teams were already selected early on in the year. So I knew that, and the players that are part of the Telkom Netball League who are going to be playing for the Western Cape teams, they knew that this competition is going to happen at some stage during this year. So they're going to have to keep themselves as fit as possible so that by the time the competition comes, they are ready to play. So I'm basically painting a picture for you that is just to show you, what has been, happening for us, Marty's netball side, and how we've had to come up with ways to stay positive, keep the players motivated, and let them know that, this is not, at some stage, this is going to end. We're going to get back to playing. We're going to get back to the netball court, and those that are going to the competition will be able to get time on court and start prepping and start playing. So I'm coaching Marty's, but I'm not the coach of the Telkom. I'm not the coach of the teams, the Western Cape teams that are going to be playing in the Telkom Netball League. But I do have players that are part of that team. So as much as they're not going to be playing a university competition, they're still Marty's players. So next year they come back into the system. So it's also important for me as a coach to keep, to be in the know as to what my players are doing with another coach, to make sure that they are as ready as possible to go and play this competition. Now, I had my reservations about it because for me, my thing was when they canceled all university competitions, my thing was, okay, you know what, there's going to be cancel all sport. No sport, just let this year go by, and then we just, slowly, closer to the end of the year, slowly start up prepping for 2021. That's what I said, straight up. I was like, great. If there's going to be no sport, let there be no sport on all levels. Let's just use this time to just slowly recuperate, and then, we have more like of a prolonged or extended preseason. And so when we got the information that no, Telkom League is going on, it's happening, it's going to be in Bloemfontein, it's going to be in a bio bubble, players need to go in there it's going to be like 2 consecutive weeks of play. They need to be there a couple of days before to just, in the bio bubble. I don't know how the whole thing is going to play itself out, but they're going to be playing back-to-back matches. Now, keep in mind that my players are under someone else's watch. So they're following, they're going to be training with another coach, and that coach will also make sure that they are ready to play this competition. But we also have a responsibility from Marty's side because they are bursary holders and they'll be part of our system next year. And my major concern is, wow, they haven't been on court. They haven't been doing any netball training, like netball specific training. So if you think of netball as a sport, you're thinking of the plyometrics, jumping, stopping and starting, changing direction, agility, all those kind of things. And then they still need to be on court as a team to get the team strategies and the team plans, sorted out. So we got the government and the Minister of Sport saying last week sometime that sport can resume, and netball got the go-ahead to start training. So 17th of October, And the competition starts on the 17th of September. The competition starts on the 14th of October. Gives them less than a month to go and play probably like the second highest competition in netball in our country after the national championships. And I had a lot of questions as to what is the quality of the netball that's going to be played, the injuries that the players can get, so many things were running through my mind. So I'm really blessed to have an HP team that is on the ball, making sure that our players, even though they're playing under another coach, are ready psychologically, that they're ready physically, that yes, it's squashed up. How ready can they be, because I don't know if they've even actually, with the coach that's coaching them, if they've actually been on the netball court to do any netball training. But we from our side are doing the best that we can to make sure that when they start on the 14th of October in Bloemfontein, we'll be monitoring them. Fortunately, I'll also be there. We'll be monitoring them. We'll be making sure that, they are well taken care of, and that, they're not being overplayed. And unfortunately now NSA said they can extend the squad. So it's not just going to be 12 players that are going to be there for the rotation, and I guess to also help with prevention of injuries. So it's been quite a struggle for us, I must say. And we're really looking forward to getting the go-ahead from the university, because at the moment we still haven't been given the go-ahead to resume any sport. The only people that are back on campus are the few students that were identified by the university to say they can come back. I think it was probably like last final year students, and those that wrote in and asked if they could come back to residence because maybe, where they live is not conducive for them to be able to still study but being at home. So we're from the sporting front, we're waiting for our university to say yes, our facility, we can access our facilities, and how we will, the plan that we are going to follow as Marty Sport is definitely not going to be one of the whole squad come in from a netball perspective. Now the whole squad comes in, everybody just plays, because for me as a coach, I still need to follow safety protocols. I still need to make sure that the players are safe. I need to make sure the environment is safe for the players, and the players feel safe to come back into that space, into that environment. So one-on-one training sessions, one-on-one position specific, myself, we've got a defensive coach, we've got an attacking coach, we've got a shooters coach. So we'll put out a program and we'll say, the sessions are available, players are welcome to come. But one thing I want to emphasize is that, and I've said this, is that we cannot force players to come back to training. We say as coaches, training is available. We're available. Here's individual slots. Book your time if you want to have a session, but it's not compulsory. You can't force them. They have to feel safe, and it's entirely up to them to decide if they want to come back and train. But we will open it up. And it was a massive discussion that we had about this, because even though they're bursary holders, I personally would not say a player has to come to training. It's entirely up to them, and I want them to feel safe to come back into that space, because should anything happen, then the responsibility will be on me as a coach and the other coaches that will be part of our sessions, to make sure, we have to make sure that the environment is safe, and we have to make sure that the players feel safe to come into that space. And I think for me, this whole time, I've used this COVID-19 time to really relook at my goals and relook at my team, the goals that the team has set, and relook and really gone back to, I spent time going back to matches that we played in 2017. you know, that I've recorded, and I've gone back and I've watched the journey, and I've watched how we've evolved. I've watched how we've grown as a team, and I've picked up so many things, like, you know, from 2017 up until 2019. I've gone back and I've been watching a lot of netball videos on from the World Cup last year. I've upskilled myself. I've looked at things. I'm actually seeing the game, and I'm seeing things in a different way now, because I think it's because I've got time and I'm not rushing. So I spend time watching the videos. I'm following the Suncorp, which is the international competition that's playing in Australia. And I'm looking at the trends and how the game has changed, and what's happening, and how, because they were also on lockdown, but they've started their professional competition, and to see how they actually got the players back into training, into gym, into court training, you know, and all the protocols being observed and followed as they, and I've been asking the question, you know, how's the injury, how's been the level, the injuries, you know, and there've been a few, but not as many as I thought that there would be. So yeah, so I think it's interesting times, and I always say because yesterday I, for example, was walking down the street in Stellenbosch, and people are not wearing masks, and I said to myself, oh my goodness, yes, we are on lockdown level 1, but COVID is still there, and we know that it's the question I still ask myself is there going to be a time when there's going to be no COVID? And if it is, when? You know, so I'm going to approach, and we're going to approach netball and going back to training with that thing in our minds, that we have to make sure that we are cautious. We make sure that the space is safe, and safety really for me comes first. But what I know is that the players want to play. They want to play. They want to be on court. They want to train, and we won't hold that. We won't prevent them from doing that, but we just need to make sure from our side that when we welcome them and allow them to come into that space, that it's a space that is safe for them to be able to do what they love. So yeah, so interesting times lie ahead, and I must say that it's going to be interesting to see how the competition in Bloemfontein is going to play itself out. You know, because I haven't been in a sporting environment during this COVID space, COVID time. So how NSA are going to run the program, how safety protocols will be observed, and how the players are going to play, because also in their minds, they know that COVID is there. So are they going to be flexible and free to go full, because netball is a contact sport. And people seem to think it's not. It is a contact sport. You're in someone's face the whole time. You're breathing down their necks the whole time. So what's going to be the approach of the players when they're on the field of play and they against each other, bumping each other, you know? And one thing I must say is that they can't play with masks, because I train with a mask and it's the worst thing ever. So yeah, so we'll see how NSA is gonna run the show, and then we'll also take notes from that in order for us to be able to do things the right way when it's our time to start training here at the University of Stellenbosch. Thank you.
Thank you, Zanele. We've actually got already some questions coming in for you. Thank you so much. So the first question is that what do you think is going to be the most difficult part in getting ready to play after such a long time of not playing? You know what, just judging from I say to my players when we had a meeting with them, we asked them, why do you guys want to go and play this competition, this TNL competition in October? Because it's not like there's going to be national selection. There's nothing that you're going to basically get out of this, you know. And all they said is, Coach, we just want to play. So I don't know if there's going to be anything that's going to be. The players, I don't know if there's going to be a challenge. I think they just want to get back onto the field. They just want to be on the field and start training and start playing. So I don't know if there's going to be a challenge as such, but how the coaches or how the S&Cs then
run their training sessions, I think that might be something that will need to be taken into consideration.
Now, I know Ricardo spoke earlier on about his 5-year plan, but you've also brought it up from your side that you actually do have your own plan. You've got your own plan for the future and stuff. So how's the 2020 affected that plan? Because you spoke about going back and doing your own research, but how's it actually affected you with your plans?
So in 2019, obviously we recruited players to come to Marty's for 2020. And so we had a squad of 32 players. So they were matric in 2019, then they are first years in 2020. Now these first years haven't been on court, so they haven't played, they haven't trained. So now we're getting a new group in 2021. So, and it's the talent, it's crazy. Now we can only have 32 players, a squad of 32 players. And my only concern is the fact that the 2020 first years might just be outplayed by the 2021 first years. And we might lose this group of players that we didn't even get an opportunity to see because of the strong group that's coming in next year.
So then this comes off which you've just answered now, and also a question that I had too. Tulani's asking, do you have a specific feeder program for your athletes intake from high schools?
Feeder programs?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm fortunate to have a guy here because I'm from PE and in the Western Cape, and things work differently here. I'm fortunate to have a guy by the name of Monet Tonda, who is very well known in the Western Cape when it comes to school netball specifically, and he has his own netball academy as well. So I brought him in to be part of Marty's to coach our VIX team, which is our second team, and he's a brilliant. So and I also made him head of our recruitment team. So this guy literally introduces me to the schools in the Western Cape so that I'm known that I'm the coach of Marty's, and he's the one that helps me to build those relationships with the schools in the Western Cape. And for us, what's important is we try and keep the talent as much here in the Western Cape as possible, because a lot of the times the players want to go to either Bloem or Pretoria, but the talent is so great here that we want to make sure that when you leave matric, you've got Marty's to go to, or you've got even UWC that you can go to as a university. So it's building relationships with the schools and having that open communication with them, and Monet has been instrumental in making sure that we get the Western Cape schools players to come through to Marty's. And also, please understand, one of the challenges that we've had at Marty's is the fact that our academic requirements are so high. So we really, if you come to Marty's, you need to know that you are sound academically if you still want to play netball at a high performance level. And we do have, for example, players that are brilliant in netball but academically are not strong. Get them in via, if the director of news can also motivate as well. And then, but when they come in here, we make sure they are under this program that is making sure that they pass, because what's important for us, even though they're student athletes, even though they are netball players, they are students first. So we guide them perfectly, make sure that they've got all the support they can get to maintain a good academic standard and also play netball at the same time.
You've sort of answered it, but a lot of kids, they use the matric year to play in different youth weeks or to play in school tournaments where they can be identified and seen, but they haven't had that opportunity now. So what happens to those kids that were in matric this year that were looking to excel in netball to get an opportunity to go to varsity and get a bursary, or just to make the varsity team? Because it must be very difficult. I know you communicate with the schools, but it must be very difficult for those kids. How can the coaches reassure those kids?
Yeah, I must say, strangely enough, I think for other universities that it's going to be, it is a very difficult situation. So how we operate here at Marty's is for a first, you have to be exceptional, if I can put it that way, to be in matric, and then come to the University of Stellenbosch and make the high performance, like first team, for example. You understand what I'm saying? So when I recruit, I go. I'll tell you that I've got 3 players that I saw that not last year, that I saw in 2019, and they were, I saw in 2019 in a tournament, and in that tournament, I said to them, and they said, no, we're not, we're in grade 11, we're in grade 11, and I said, okay, I need your contact details, I need to chat to the parents, because I need you to come to Marty's in 2021. So that's how we've always worked it out. You know, we don't really focus on the matrics, we focus on the grade 11s. And then we follow them for the grade 11 year and the grade 12 year, and make sure that we could get them here when it's time for them to come to the university. So when we recruited this year, for example, is the players that we saw in 2019. Those are the players that we offered bursaries to, because we've been following them. We saw them when they were grade 11 already. So, and we are fortunate that players, players like want to come to the University of Stellenbosch. The ones that we said, please come to Marty's, is the players, and we offered bursaries to, are the ones that we saw in 2019 already. So there's no player that in this year that we saw this year, because there was no netball to say, please come to Marty's. So we will then, when they come to Marty's, and then we have trials and play, and then we'll see the standard and the quality. But we seldom find a player that moves from a trick and comes into the Marty setup and makes it into the first team. And in some cases, Sean, for example, I've had coaches from Gauteng, you know, saying there's this brilliant player, but obviously there was no netball this year. So what the coaches did, they put videos of the player, you know, when they were playing in previous tournaments, put videos together, action pictures, and they've sent that footage through to me, you know, and I'll watch it, and I'll see, you know, just looking for the basics, because obviously, you know, the player is not in front of me right now, he's not playing now, but just looking, does the player have the basics, the basic things that we're looking for, you know, in a player that will be part of the Marty setup.
Yeah, now we've actually gone into one of the other questions that's asked, and this also shows you how people from other sports, and it doesn't matter what level, still want to ask questions. This comes from Mamelodi Sundowns, one of the scouts from Sundowns. And he asked, how's netball structured from the younger age groups to the seniors? And that also comes in a little bit with what you've just spoken about with identifying and looking at players and that kind of stuff.
So how's netball structured from the younger age in the country now?
In the country now. Mm.
Yeah. So there's, I mean, what I know, there's every little girl plays netball. Every little girl. I stand to be corrected. So every little girl plays netball. The school's netball is quite strong, and there's a lot of participants, a lot of players playing netball. And then, you know, I think where there's a bit of a disconnect is after school, you know, do they go through to university, and then do they still continue to play when they are in university? You know, and then that will translate then to the senior level. But it's, I mean, netball is it's the biggest women's sport in the country. It's the biggest women's sport in the country, you know, and yeah.
Hi, Zanele.
Senior level. A lot of work needs to be done.
Sorry,
reserve
Zanele.
my comment.
You froze for the last about 10 seconds. So pretty much that last answer, we lost most of it. Yeah.
Okay, no, I was just saying, I think there's a lot of work that still that needs to be done to ensure that the players come through the system, you know, from school, playing in school, university, provincial level, up to ultimately the senior level. And then I just said I will rather reserve my comments on anything else around that. But yeah, there's a lot of players, a lot of netballers out there, and I just think, you know, proper systems need to be put in place to ensure that that talent is not lost.
I've got a question here. It goes back to your initial speech, and it says that, and you spoke a little bit about it, but how do you get your players mentally ready to play again after such a long time off? And then going back to just a recap of what you said earlier on about motivating them to train whilst they, you know, even at home, whilst they, because you were saying yesterday that in talking to your players, you had some of them say, but why do I need to train? Because I've got no matches, I've got no tournaments coming up. So how do you motivate them and get them all mentally ready, both to train during the lockdown now, during this period now, if there's no competition, or once you have to get them ready to play, how do you get them mentally ready to play again?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that I think Eugene will jump on, and because he's more of the mind guy than I am, but I think we've had really quite a brilliant vibe in our group, with our leadership group, led by our captain and all the senior players, and how they've, you know, sort of they keep challenging each other on the group with doing certain things. Like, you know, one will say, okay, this is the program that I'm going to do today. Let's see how many sets you can do in 10 minutes, you know? So everybody does that, and then they post it on the group and they send a video of themselves sometimes, and sometimes they just post that I could do so many sets. So the winner gets announced that this is the player. So they challenge each other and they keep each other going. And I think that's been very important, because at times, and I as a coach, I'm seeing this, and I'm happy that it's them that are actually keeping each other going, you know, instead of always us intervening and in a way interfering. So I know my girls, they just want to get back. I mean, the university is not allowing the students to come back as yet. Whether they will or not, we don't know. But the ones that are around the Western Cape, who are at home and whatever, if we say, here's a training opportunity, they will be here, because they just want to be on court and play and train.
So we've got a nice comment here from Mati Harry. She's from Gymnastics South Africa, and she spoke at one of our previous webinars. I'll share the link with you so you can watch it. And she talks about the fact that, you know, when you're talking about people battling to train at home because they don't have space to run, she's got a program within a 4 square meter space with a skipping rope, what they can do, and it's got a whole lot of exercises. So I'll pass on also her details to you so you can have a chat to her about it. But in talking about that, it actually brings up another question, is that you sitting there at Marty's with a huge selection of different sports, a huge knowledge base behind you between people that study it and people that coach it. How do you interact amongst the different groups to assist each other in improving Marty's sport in general?
Yeah, so we've had quite a lot of those sessions as coaches, and they are led by our performance psychologist, Eugene. And we share a lot of information and knowledge as to how other coaches and other sporting codes are dealing with this whole COVID setup. And I promise you, I am in it's like, I call it the hub of high performance sport. You know, I'm surrounded by coaches who are exceptional, and we share so much information, and we guide each other and help each other out, and we learn from each other. You know, I once mentioned the other day that there's the Blitzboker here, and Coach Neil Powell, very nice guy. I would normally go to his training sessions and just sit there, because I've asked him if I can just come and watch and see what they do, because they world champions. I mean, well, they were. Go there, and I took a lot of information and exercises from his training session that I could use in my training sessions for netball. You know, when it comes to things like taking the hits, contact, how do you absorb that bump, and just so many ideas, you know. So we as Marties have a very open coaching group where we are constantly in contact with each other, be it WhatsApp, be it on a Zoom meeting. You know, we've got one coming up on Tuesday actually, where we're being led by Eugene, and how and where, and I think what he's going to talk to us about is like where to from here now. How do we now get back to the field in our different in our different codes?
So yeah, I've got a question here. This is from Sachaba. Now he's in Free State and he runs an academy called Our Father's Academy, and they've got various different sports and things like that. So he's looking for like a football coaching program, but they also want to introduce or do a lot more netball at the academy. So he wants to know, are there any specific training programs for school netball coaches?
The Chaba, I think what he will need to do is get in contact with, if I talk about Free State now, there's the person that I know in Free State with regards to netball is Bertha de Kock, and that's the coach at the University of Free State. And I think, and then she should be able to link him. Is Chaba a girl or a guy?
A guy.
A guy. She'll be able to link him to the relevant people that can assist, you know, with regards to coaching programs for schools. Is it for school coaches?
For school coaches, yes.
Yeah, for school coaches. Then, because remember, there's different levels. You have to get like a level 1, and there's people who do that, who like from Netball South Africa side, who need to come through and to do the whole accreditation thing of giving you a level 1, so that you can be a coach. You get your qualification. And then can move up to level 2, but Netball South Africa doesn't have a level 3 as yet. So those are the 2 levels of coaching, and Bertha de Kock is the person that will be able to say to you, because I think she also assesses and does the level 1s. She can be able to guide you accordingly.
Now, going back to the interaction between different teams, you actually spoke to me the other day about your experience with rugby in Port Elizabeth. Can you talk us through that and tell us how different sports can actually assist each other physically?
Yeah, yes, no, absolutely. I don't know if you saw, but during the World Cup last year, the Rugby World Cup, there was an article on how Japan they appointed a coach to train them netball and coach them how to catch and pass. And that's why, you know, they rugby sort of improved. But when I was in Port Elizabeth, I was approached by a coach. I just forgot his name now, but he was from New Zealand, and he coached the Eastern Province rugby side. And I was obviously seeing the physio that was there. And then this physio was telling him that, oh no, Zanele plays netball, played for South Africa, blah, blah, blah. And then we actually started chatting about the fact that we went to play the Silver Ferns, which is the New Zealand side, in New Zealand, Wellington, and how badly we lost and blah, blah, blah. And then he said to me, oh my goodness, you play netball? I said, yes. He said, can you please come and help my team, help my boys with catching and passing? Just simple catch. I mean, that's what you do in netball. You catch and pass the ball. And I worked with those guys. You know, it's actually amazing, because a player like Ulizo Koboka was a current Springbok, was a Springbok squad player. He was still playing in P. Just teaching them how to, the quick releases, how to catch the ball in the air quickly, and you know where your hands need to be, and how do you open your fingers, you know, when you're going to catch the ball, where your hands need to be, and do you stretch your arms here, or do you wait for the ball here, or do you catch the ball there, that kind of thing. And it was unbelievable. And then I remember when Lizo came here for the training camp with the Springboks, he said to me, yo, remember when you taught us how to catch and pass? I was like, and it's you think it's simple and it's basics, but it's a skill. It's a skill, and if you can do it well, you know, and fine tune it and do it well, it can change your game. You know, it can change your game. So, you know, I mean, like now I made an example of how I went to Coach Neil Powell's training session and took some exercises or drills from him and used them in my netball coaching sessions.
Whilst we're talking about rugby, can you just introduce the coach from your side, from the Marty side, and his because I've got the link here that I can share with everybody. Can you just mention what it is about and how we can actually help him with his research?
Yeah, so Coach Drickus is our Marty's rugby coach, and he's doing his masters. So I think Sean is going to share the link. He's doing his masters in sports participation and learning agility. You know, so he's needing about 160, 180 people just to complete this questionnaire, the survey. It's very quick. It's literally like, because when he said to me, Coach, I know people don't want to do this because they think the questionnaire is long. I said, I hope it's not long. He said, it will literally take you 5 minutes. And it did. It was even less than 5 minutes. So I'm just encouraging and asking everyone if you can please just help him out with this. Just complete the survey. It's very quick and it's very basic, very simple. And it's for, you know, he just wants it. One of the first question there is like, do you consider yourself an athlete? You know, and then you have to rate yourself. So I think it's going to be perfect for the coaches and if any athletes are here as well to just participate, and please help him out. I think he really, really needs this data. So Sean, if you can just share that link with us, please.
I've shared it on the chat group, and then both Ricardo and myself have really filled it in. So, and it doesn't even take 5 minutes. It's quick and easy. And it's quite simple, but it'll actually go a long way to helping somebody. So it's great to have it. I've got a question now about sponsorships, because I mean, women's sport is blowing up in the country now, and it's an untapped market. But you guys are still struggling with sponsorships. What kind of sponsors do you have? Because I think you've got some personal sponsors too, and then there's team sponsor.
Well, Marty's netball doesn't have any sponsors. There's a lot of red tape and a whole lot of stuff that needs to be in place in order before we can get sponsors. But Marty's sport has got sponsors, but netball itself doesn't have. And from a country's perspective, SPAR has always been a sponsor for us. Has always been supporting netball. We just got Telkom now. Puma's also on board. Twizzler, I think, as well. And it's been the struggle of women's sport in the country for the longest of time. I mean, we had the G Sport Awards now end of August, and Momentum decided to stay on, you know, for the second consecutive year as a G Sport Awards sponsor, you know, supporting women in sport. So I think, and especially with netball now, with the World Cup coming up in 2023, and with us wanting to become a professional sporting code, you know, we need sponsors. There's no way we can be a professional code without sponsors, and that's why you find that most of our senior players are playing in Australia and New Zealand because they're playing at a professional level there. You know, they've got all that, and they've got team sponsors, and then some of them have their own individual sponsors. So yeah, that's something that we know is a battle. We had the netball president, Cecilia Molokwana, you know, she was in one of the webinars that she was speaking about that we asking people to come and sponsor netball. I mean, who doesn't want to be linked with a sport that is going to be hosting a World Cup in the next 2 years? So yeah.
Now, it's sometimes quite tough that you see that some of our South African players go, because of the professional side of it, go for play in Australia and New Zealand, and eventually play against us and beat us because their levels are so high because of the professional side. So it shows you that talent-wise, we would be in the top 3 in the world most probably, but financially speaking, we can't.
No doubt at all, Sean. you know, Coach Norma Plummer, she's our former Spa Proteas coach, and she's from Australia. She, you know, when she came here, she's just like, whoa, you know, the talent is crazy. We're so talented, but you can't compete with talent alone. You know, you got to do this thing on a daily. So you're competing with teams that are, while you're sitting, for example, as a player in an office working, you're competing with players that are either with their strength and conditioning coach in the gym or with their personal trainer, whatever they're doing, you know, but they play. Netball is their work. That's what they do for living, you know. And I mean, if you look at our results and how well we played against those teams and how well we performed, and at some stage we even beat teams like England and came close. We lost by 2 goals to Australia in a World Cup last year, whereas we come from a time where, goodness, we used to lose by, I can't even tell you some, like the margins, you know, but because we have our players, some of them playing overseas, and they playing with, in those teams, they're playing with the players that are part of the, maybe the Silver Ferns or part of the Diamonds. So they come with that experience and they bring it back into our national setup, and it sort of boosts our standard and our quality of play as well.
Now here's a question: is that how can young girls from rural areas who do not have proper facilities make it to the top universities like Marty's? Because from what I understand, I mean, the talent we're getting in the rural areas is incredible. The amount of talent we're getting from the rural areas, and a lot of these girls are getting opportunities.
Yeah, that is a $1 million question. But remember, the kids need to be in school, and the kids need to pass in school, and then they need to obviously apply to get into an institution. And this is one of the things for me that is if I can put it, a thorny issue. It's a very thorny issue. If you look at the players I was talking about, where I said I saw them in 2019, they are players from the Eastern Cape. I saw them in a tournament, but they from schools from the Eastern Cape. It was a schools tournament, and I saw them playing in a tournament here in Paarl. And I did approach them, and I was like, you know, I would want to check your results, check how you're doing at school. And I was following up not only with them, but with the coaches, to check how are their academics, because that's one of the challenges of coming to Marty's, is that if your academics are not, then it's really going to be a struggle for you to come in here. And that is something that I prioritize, is that if I see a player, I want to make sure that academically they're doing well. And if there's anything we can do while we're on this side to help them while they're in school to get their marks up and for them to pass, then we do that as well. But I think that's a massive challenge at the moment. I know, for example, at the Nelson Mandela University, which is in PE, I've got a brilliant coach there, Coach Lana, and they do a lot of clinics around the Eastern Cape. They go to East London, they go around, you know, through SPA, because SPA is their sponsor, and they are able to see at the schools, you know, who the talent that's there. But I think we're not doing enough to go into the rural area, in the rural areas, and that responsibility is also on the shoulders of our department of sport. You know, to be able to create avenues where we can access the kids that are in the rural areas, because I tell you now, talent is crazy. It's crazy. It's in the blood, that thing. It's in the blood. The child just needs to be taken, nurtured, shown, hands held, and walk the path. Because that's how I became a national player. I was identified. Some Coach Reg Sharp saw me at the age of 10 and was like, oh my goodness, I see something in this kid. And then he journeyed with me. He walked the path with me, you know, and at the end of the day, that responsibility lies on us as coaches to find the kids and walk the path with them and take them through the ranks and through the channels.
Also, to start a program, within a school in a rural area or a township area, you don't need much. It's like football. You need a ball, you can do it in 5 seconds. You don't need huge expenses.
You know, Sean, when I was in PE, I actually I registered a foundation called the Vision Girls, because my thing was, and this was looking forward to 2022, when at that time we were told that we might be hosting the Commonwealth Games in Durban. And my thing was just looking at how I came to be a national player and I've always said that it's my responsibility. I might not hold 10 kids' hands, but if I hold one, then I'm doing something, you know. And this whole thing, and I looked at Port Elizabeth as a whole, and the schools in New Brighton, in Izwide, KwaZakhele, all the townships. I was like, the one thing that is lacking there, because I started the Vision Girls in KwaZakhele, and we were training in this really gravel, rough surface, you know, and they just had paint around there, whatever, but the kids showed up, you know, and they wanted to play. And I came up with this concept that, you know, schools in PE, we say New Brighton, you look at the top schools that play netball in maybe New Brighton, two there, Motherwell, whatever. And you approach it's a crazy thing, maybe it will never work, but you approach banks and say, okay, Standard Bank, can you build a netball court? A facility here, a netball court, make sure that, and you can name it the Standard Bank Tech netball court, whatever, you know, but you make sure that there's the kit, you provide the kit, you provide the equipment. Now this is for the schools. And then you say, because I was at the University of Nelson Mandela, and I was an assistant coach there, and many of those players played provincial levels, of the first team players played provincial. So it was a situation of, then I can get those players who play proper netball and understand the right, what proper netball is, to go to the schools, because the teachers at the schools also, they are teachers. They don't really know how to coach the sport, but they'll coach the sport because maybe it's part of their job, you know. But get players who are provincial players to come into the schools and coach not only the players, but coach the coach as well, you know, and bring up that level of the quality of the basic netball that's been coached and being played at the schools, right? And then make sure that all these, and then you just, maybe the bank can just say, okay, we'll just pay this coach transport money, whatever. But to lift the standard and the quality of netball that's being played in the schools is very important. And you got to get the players who are playing at the highest level or the provincial level, who know what basic netball is, to go into the schools and coach and help out there. And I was coaching at schools in PE. It's the talent is crazy, but the kids are not getting the right coaching. They're not being taught the right basic things when it comes to netball. I can go on about this topic forever. It's something it's very dear to my heart. Very, 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 very dear to my heart. And then on the Vision Goal side of things, I just want to, just before we end, sorry for taking your time, but it was this whole thing of, you know, the Department of Sport would have mass participation or mass clinics or whatever, where all these kids come and they would give them talk bags, t-shirts, techies or whatever, and spend so much money on it in a day for this thing, and just tick the register that there was a coaching clinic or something happening, a sports event or something happening there, you know. And then I said, if we are constantly complaining about the quality, or that we're not, for example, seeing players of color at our national levels, or enough of them at our national levels, who's doing something about it, okay? So my thing was, every girl must strive to be a vision girl. So when I was still playing, when I was still at the university, I was a member of the Eastern Cape Academy of Sport, of the member of the Eastern Cape Academy netball squad, right? There we got access to the gym, we got access to a sports psychologist, we got access to physios, we got access to nutrition, we got access to, name it, we got it. Proper coaching, we had the best coach there and everything. Now, there's no way you are going to get those players at that level if you are just giving them t-shirts, talk bags, juice, bread, and off they go. You know, there's got to be a proper program and a system that they can be part of, that is going to make sure that they move slowly but surely up and get to the level, and give them and expose them to all these things, of doctors, physios, all these things, nutrition, psychology, what, and make sure that they get the proper coaching as well. And then you tell me you won't be able to get quality players of color up in the highest levels in our teams. Because at the moment with netball, if you're not fortunate to go into a university and get a bursary and play for that university, and play maybe in a Telkom netball league, or in a what you call this thing, in a national, or play at the national championships, if you don't get to appear there somewhere, you know, then you're gone. You're going to grow old and you're going to be missed, and we'll never actually see see that you could have been a potential a SPAR Protea player. So it's important that, you know, that the right things are done, you know, and the money's going to the right people, and it's doing the right work. And the players are the most important people. The players are the most important people. It's not the administrators, it's not this and that. You're there to serve and make sure that the right programs are in place.
There's just one, I can see you're passionate about it. So there's just one question, one last question. Sorry, Tanya, we just got one more question to ask. And the reason why I'm bringing it up again, because you have answered it in different ways, been asked in different ways, that it's obviously a big issue amongst the coaches, because it's not the first time it's been brought up today. And this was a question specifically about the TNL, and it said, the question was asked, have you actually sat down personally with some of the TNL players and got them ready psychologically? And I know you've got somebody to help you also from your side, but have you done it too from your side?
With my players?
Yeah, with your players.
That are in the TNL, that are going to play in the TNL?
Yeah.
Have I sat down with them to do what?
To help them psychologically get ready to start the season again and start playing again.
No, I haven't sat down with them.
Yeah, because you've mentioned from your side that you've actually got a sports psychologist that actually has dealt with them and dealt with you guys. So I think it's been done directly by him from your side, and then it will be done from the provincial side.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that, you know, what I do is I do have like coffees, like one-on-ones, just to chat, not necessarily talk about them going into the competition now, whatever. But I think I can take that as something that maybe I should do. I think I don't think that would be something that will hurt. I think it might be a good thing, actually, maybe me to meet up with them, because at the moment, obviously, everybody is still at home. To meet up and just say, you know, check in and say, you know, are you ready? Are you ready to go? Are you ready to? What do you need? You know, maybe a one-on-one with myself as their coach and the player would be a good thing. Can definitely look into doing something like that.
And I think from just whilst we're at it, and just to say thank you so much. But the guys can go back and actually also look at John McGraw's presentation that he had done, because that can help the guys, you know, get the psychological part of you know, growing the you know, getting your kids back, motivating people. And I think John McGraw's presentation was also fantastic. So thank you so much, Zanele. Thank you so much for chatting today. Got loads of questions that came in, and thank you so much for